Eric, thank you so much for joining today. You stopped traffic this week by saying our retirement system is now the stock market. Discuss.
Yeah, look, it was the Trump account announcement, which I had been following. But when you really dig into the numbers, 58% of Americans own stocks. That is by far the most in the world. So we're kind of in an experiment here. Most countries, it's only the rich people that own stocks. Trump accounts are going to bring in like another 20%, maybe even more, depending on how many philanthropists get involved. And that would be a lot of people who don't even care or know about the stock market are now going to have a kind of a vested interest in how it does. So now you've got almost the entire voting public who is going to care what the stock market does. So if the Fed and the government have stepped in multiple times since 2008, with more people interested in it, you really can't let it go. You can't let it fail. It's kind of like a public utility, like the electric grid.
Right. I'm in the triple leverage Netflix account. That's really working out today. Well, are we learning in the double leverage, triple leverage comedy that it's speculation and not investment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of games being played at the same time in the stock market. There's plenty of money going into VU and Vanguard. I call them the Vanguardians. Then there's the degens, and they both buy the dip for different reasons. But they're both playing different games. Some are trading, some are going long term. In ETFs, we see both kinds. But I'll say that the big blob of money is generally pretty conservative. They're buying cheap beta, both stocks, bonds, and maybe some commodities, and they're holding for the long term. And it's just boring. They don't get much media because it's like, okay, I'm going to buy VU today. What else can I say? It's the S&P 500. We're going to talk about these shiny objects over here, but most of the money is pretty vanilla.
All right, let's talk about shiny objects, because 2 weeks ago, SpaceX was a shiny object, but it's now trading below its IPO price. Yeah, it's at about 124 and change. What does that signal, Michael Ball, about speculative appetite right now? Because we know that there's going to be a lot of volatility. How can you tell when we're just going through normal swings versus there's really a change, an inflection point in whether people chase rallies?
Yeah, two things. One, it came in very expensive valuation-wise, and then also was sort of marketed as a neo cloud in the sky, literally floating around the planet, versus a rocket ship company. So it changed kind of flavor, and it's now fallen into this momentum unwind in almost all things AI.
There are some other big IPOs to look forward to, not just SpaceX. We've got Anthropic, OpenAI at some point, and Alphabet and other big tech companies are busy selling stock. The setup seems to be there's going to be a lot of supply coming to market. Do you think, given the increased role that individual investors play in the market, that there's going to be enough demand to absorb all of this supply?
Yeah, and that's been the real macro dynamic change this year, that finally we're going to have more supply than demand. The buyback story is actually worsened as well. We know free cash flows come off from the hyperscalers and some of the mega tech, so that's even more questionable next year. But to your point, we keep getting new bites of additional paper coming to fund not only CapEx in AI, but even elsewhere with other IPOs coming more than expected as people are sort of rushing in. And with credit markets now looking a little more wobbly and some of the rejection there from the paper that we've recently gotten, it means AI paper may even come more for stocks.
I mean, Michael, help me here. Dovetail this in with what Eric said, because Scarlett's got to get to Vanessa. She's more important than we are. In this conversation, if Chairman Warsh levels or raises interest rates, what does it do to my 401k?
Yeah, look, equity financing is actually coming up into conversation again, because this is a lot of balance sheet constraints on the banks who not only help the paper come to market through IPOs, but then actually lend to the, not only buy side, but other areas of the market to borrow and basically buy stocks. And that is coming under more pressure.
Are we asleep about any instabilities to come up here? I mean, in personal finance, retirement, wealth management, are we all asleep right now?
So right now, as the macro picture stands with growth and inflation where it is, I think we can expect maybe a reversal of the Powell cut and maybe a subsequent maybe 75 basis points of hikes just to reset the levels and basically get markets even. But I don't see a large hiking cycle coming, and Warsh is certainly not signaling that. So I don't think you need to be surprised by any sort of tail risk. What you should expect is that financial conditions will be not easing further.
Do you have a clue what he just said there?
Part of it, some of it. Well, let's bring that back to the World Cup and how we spend our money on a daily basis, because the buoyant stock market of the last couple of years is one big reason why you're seeing so much froth built into the World Cup. I mean, Vanessa, you've been going to the matches, not just necessarily in New York, New Jersey, but around the country. And there's all these luxury suites built in. There's these like fast ways for the uber wealthy to get to these games where they don't have to wait in line and put up with all the inconveniences that people who pony up thousands of dollars do.
It's interesting because no matter who you are right now, if you're going to the World Cup final, you are probably in an upper echelon level of having money. I mean, getting into the World Cup final is $7,000 just to get in. The average price, and depending on what secondary ticket market you look at, it's $11,000 to $12,000. So, but these ultra rich who are going to the game and they're spending tens of thousands of dollars on helicopter rides, they still have to find their way around the stadium. They still have to deal with a little bit of traffic as well.
Okay, so a little bit of friction there for even the uber wealthy. The other thing about the World Cup is kind of the cultural impact it's having. All these footballers that people, 3 months ago didn't know who they were. Jude Bellingham, Erling Haaland, everyone knows who they are now, including how they dress off the pitch. Erling Haaland has a $50,000 man bag. It's ludicrously capacious, as someone from Succession once said. It's very large. And I know you have a man bag too, right?
I do have a man bag. Yes, I do.
Okay, so we have man bag experts here.
Is it a $50,000 Birkin bag as well?
No, it's not a Birkin, but I did look at the Mini Kelly. Continue.
My point is that what we see on at the World Cup and the players involved has a huge influence on the rest of the economy. For instance, like the luxury sector. And there's, by the way, Holland's man bag. See, ludicrously capacious, along with some other players too.
I'll just get through at it. Are you kidding me?
Where's the raccoon?
Where's the raccoon? I have a question. Okay, you're legit D1 serious soccer. Nobody's falling down at Duquesne and withering on the ground. And then when the ball goes on the field, they miraculously get up. What do you think about this madness where I'm screaming at the screen, get up, get up, get up? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And I would also like to just point out that I did play women's soccer, and this is not something we definitely see as much in the women's game. This is a very male.
How do you respond to this stupid fall down, the ball goes by, oh, I'm miraculously cured?
It's a part of the game in a way that I think is one of the reasons why it's not as big in the U.S.
I agree.
I think,
strongly.
You have American football here and hockey and all these other sports that are very American, and we love it here, and they're very strong, and we don't like that.
In your free time, fix it. That's
At least in hockey, they're actually fighting.